don't know if you can read it from here. The sticker on the back of that car says size matters. Whoever their ex-husband is just took a stray round for no reason. Or maybe for good reason. I don't know the guy. What up, BattleBot crew? I'm a little cranky today, so I figured a quick ride around town will put me in a better mood. I had a temporary crown put on my tooth last week. When I was eating breakfast this morning, I bit into something really hard and had a sharp pain. And so I reached my finger inside my mouth and I pulled the crown out. It did not feel good, and my mouth has just been throbbing all day, so didn't really have a need to come out and ride, but the sun's out, it's pretty warm. I figured this would put me in a better mood. What up, Sasquatch? I've had a couple of people comment on some of the recent videos that they just picked up either their first bike or they're looking to get into buying a bike. And it is that time of the year where people will make some bike purchases. So I figured it would be a good idea to talk about some of the things that you should consider when buying a motorcycle. Now obviously every person is going to have a different list and different things that they put their priorities on. But generally speaking, there is kind of a common list of things to think about, especially if it's your first motorcycle. Regardless of everyone's situation and where they are in life, I definitely think we can all agree that the first thing to consider is finances. Now, obviously, motorcycles cost money, and depending on what you look at and who you're looking at buying from, the amount of money that you're going to have to fork over can vary greatly. And it was definitely one of the top things that I considered when buying my first bike. If you're looking at buying a sport bike, you can jump into the motorcycle world on the cheaper end and buy a decent bike. If you're looking at buying a cruiser, depending on what you're looking at, you can still find something cheaper. If you're looking at like a Honda Shadow or something like that, those are pretty fairly priced. But if you're looking at something with the Harley badge on it, you're obviously going to have to pay. I mean, half of what you pay for when you buy a Harley is that Harley Davidson name. It's kind of like buying a John Deere. The first couple of thousand goes towards the tractor, and then the last 20, 30,000, depending on how big of a tractor you're buying, is just paying for all that green paint. But regardless of what you're looking to buy, you're buying new or you're buying used. Now, my recommendation, if it's your first bike, go look at something used. First of all, you're not even 100% sure that you're going to enjoy riding motorcycles. I've seen and I've heard of a lot of guys buying their first bike. They have the money, and so they go out and they buy themselves something new or like new, really nice, put tons of money into it, buy something much more powerful and much faster than they really need. It scares them the first couple of times they hop up on the bike, and then it just kind of sits in their garage and collects dust. And that's thousands and thousands of dollars sitting in their garage doing nothing. So if you're looking to buy your first bike, I'd definitely suggest looking at something used. When buying used, you can either buy obviously from the dealer or you can buy privately. Buying privately can be sketchy depending on who you're getting it from, so obviously do some research into what it takes to buy a used motorcycle from a private seller. But it's my general opinion to stay away from the dealer if you can. A good friend of mine last year bought a 2015 lowrider. I think he paid like right around $10,000 for the bike, and it's an absolutely beautiful bike. Beautiful paint job on it, it's fast, it's just a good looking bike. And then he went to the dealership shortly after buying it and he had to get a couple of parts, and when they saw his bike, they were talking about it. And I think they asked him how much he paid for it. And they were like, man, if we had that thing, we'd probably put it on the floor for like $16,000, somewhere around that number. I'm not sure why they told him that, because to me that just adds all the more reason to not go to a dealership and buy from them. But you have to remember, when you're buying from a private seller, they're looking to get the most they can out of their bike, but they're also looking to sell the bike. They want to have that cash in hand. There's obviously a reason that they're selling it. Either they're short on money, they need it real quick, maybe it was thousands just sitting in their garage collecting dust, not doing anything for them. Either way, they want the money. They don't have any overhead that they have to cover. The reason why a dealership can negotiate so much is because they overprice the crap out of everything they're trying to sell. And it makes sense to do that, because you're going to have the suckers that go in there that don't have a negotiating bone in their body. Whatever the price tag says, when you walk into that dealership, they wine and dine you, and they're going to make you feel like, man, I really need this bike. You'll pay just about anything for it. Now, you're not just buying a motorcycle, you're paying for that mini fridge that they have in the corner of the showroom floor full of Miller Lights to try and wow you when you walk in, as if they really care about you. Do what you got to do. Go to a dealer if you need to, if it makes you feel more comfortable. Because like I said, buying private can be shady, but you're the boss because you're the one with the money. Like, are they trying to sell the bike and they're the one in possession of it? Yeah, sure. But you are ultimately the one that gets to make that final decision and pull the trigger on it, because you're the one with the money, and that's what they're coveting. So check the bike out, do a search on the VIN number, and here's something very important. Make sure that the person that you're buying the motorcycle from is the owner of the bike. Make sure their name is on the title. The reason why I bring that up is my brother was looking to buy a bike these past couple of weeks, and a couple of shady folks that he got a hold of on Facebook gave us reason to believe that they weren't on the title. So when I told my brother, hey, ask them to prove that they are the owner of the bike, all of a sudden these guys came up with all these reasons and excuses and stories as to why they're selling the bike for a friend. And I was like, no man, don't do it. Back out of that thing. You might be buying a hot bike Title jumping is highly illegal, which is exactly what my brother would have to do. And so make sure that you're buying the bike from the legal owner of said bike. Then when it comes to the dealership, believe me, I get it. I know what it's like to walk in there and get mesmerized by all that pretty paint in there. If I had 50 grand in cash sitting in my pocket, yeah, I'd go into a dealership and buy a brand new Road Glide tomorrow. But when I was looking, I was going into the dealership and I was checking stuff out. And obviously I'm in a little bit of a different situation than most of you guys are, where I have to find a bike that fits my needs as a double amputee rider. Not everything's gonna work for me. I also had to pick something up that was economical enough for me to be able to ride, but then immediately dump some money into it to modify it. That way I can ride it with my electric shifter and stuff. If you notice, I'm not riding with an electric shifter and I'm shifting with my leg right now. I talk about that in one of my previous videos, so go ahead and click the link up top. Check out my whole shifting story. But anyway, my thought was I'm going to be a first-time rider. I'm not sure if it's really going to work for me. Obviously, I can go to a trike, but I wanted to give 2 wheels a try before I went directly to a trike. Paying brand new motorcycle money for something that I wasn't 100% sure was going to work out, just not a smart financial decision for me or for my family. And I just so happened to have a buddy reach out to me and say, hey, I'm looking to sell my fat boy. Would you be interested? And so we talked price over the phone. The price was at a point where I was like, you know what? I don't know if he's waving at me or what. He's looking at me. I don't think I know who he is. But anyway, the price was at a point where I was like, you know what? I can dive into this, give 2 wheels a shot, see if it works. And if not, I can always see if my buddy wants to buy the bike back for me or turn around and sell it to someone else and not come out at a loss, really. It was a worthy investment for me to explore, at least. Speaking of the price point of this bike, something else you have to think about is a loan. Do you want to take out a loan? Do you have enough to pay for cash? That's something else you have to consider. Just like buying any vehicle, odds are you're going to have to consider a loan. So for this, I didn't want to have to pay completely out of pocket right off the bat, and so I called my bank about a loan. And I've got great credit, but even still, the interest rate that they were offering, I wasn't okay with having to pay all that extra money on the back end of the deal. And so I said, you know what, screw it, I'll just pay for it cash. But if you go to a dealership, be aware, don't buy a motorcycle and pay for it for 96 months or 84 months. That's just absolutely insane. Will it lower the interest rate? Sure. But are you paying for that thing for 84 to 96 months? Yeah. And so you're paying way more money than for what the bike is even worth. And in my opinion, as much as I love these bikes, they already charge way more than they're worth. Along with the finance talk comes insurance. You got to pay insurance on the bike. And so call around, get some quotes. I go through Geico with just about everything. They always give me the best rates. And for this thing, I am paying just under $20 a month for it. Something else to consider when buying a bike is the maintenance. Motorcycles break down. Motorcycles need love and affection, especially if you're buying something that rumbles and vibrates and shakes as much as these things do. And so they're going to require a good bit of maintenance. Even if you have the best running bike in the world, something as simple as the tires wear way more than they would on a car or a truck. Now, if you don't have the time, tools, or knowledge to be able to work on the bike yourself, you're going to have to bring it to the dealership or a mom and pop shop if you can find a reputable one near you. And so that's going to cost money. On top of that, motorcycle parts, just like all auto parts, honestly nowadays, are not cheap. And so that adds into the expenses of this thing as well. It's a never-ending cycle of putting money into these motorcycles. Now for me, I like to work on this thing myself. I have friends that work on bikes. I have family that works on bikes. It's just kind of a big party that we have where we're constantly coming over and helping each other work on bikes or asking each other questions and stuff like that, loaning each other tools or parts or whatever. But I'm fortunate to be in that situation. But maintenance is just one more added cost to owning and operating a motorcycle that you have to consider before you even purchase it. So say you're purchasing a bike at like $5,000 and then your insurance monthly, and then we'll get into gear in a second. Now you're looking at maintenance. Say you buy a used motorcycle, you bring that used motorcycle home, you find out that the brakes need a service right off the bat. And you take a look at the tires and you realize, okay, the tires looked good at the point of sale, but now that I am looking at it, the front tire actually needs to be replaced. In my opinion, you might as well replace both tires right there on the spot. Then you decide after a little bit of riding, you know what, I'm not a huge fan of the grips that I have on these things. I want to change the grips out. So you change the grips out and you find out that the grips that you want to purchase, you actually need a throttle tube, and your previous grips had the throttle tube already inside of it. Then you have to purchase a throttle tube. These are just small examples. And then if you have a group that you like to ride with or that you fall in with, maybe their bikes perform a little bit better than yours, and so you want to start to do some like small modifications to it. So you want to purchase a cam. Well, if you swap out the cam, you have to get a cam bearing, and then you have to get the tool to pull that bearing out. And you can either purchase that tool for yourself or, again, bring it to a shop, have them do all the work, pay for the labor. When you swap out the cam, then you have to replace the gaskets for it. It's just, you make one small move on the bike and then it turns into a whole bunch of other financially cumbersome moves. Do you have to do all that stuff? No, obviously you don't. But you don't want to come across these potential decisions and then you realize, damn it, this is going to cost money, that's going to cost money. Maybe I should have bought the newer bike, or maybe I should have bought a used bike because it would have freed me up to do X, Y, and Z. Now I mentioned gear. That's another expense. You have to buy yourself a helmet. I went out and bought a couple of different helmets right off the bat because I didn't know what I was going to like. I bought a full modular helmet at first. Shortly after that, I saw my friend riding around in a 3/4 helmet, and I was like, man, that actually looks pretty cool. So I went and bought myself a 3/4, which is what I actually wear and ride around on every day. I love this thing. And then I spent a couple of bucks on a half helmet. Make sure everything that you buy is DOT approved. It's one thing to get pulled over and then you get busted with a non-DOT certified helmet. Pay your fine, whatever. But if you're gonna wear a non-DOT approved helmet, what's the point of even wearing the helmet? I do a lot of dumb things in my life, but that's a dumb thing that I just personally don't see the point of. You're gonna wear safety gear, make sure it's actual safety gear. Something else to look into as far as gear is gloves. Now, I'll be honest with you, you're gonna see in upcoming videos, I probably won't be wearing gloves all that much in the summertime. I'm just not a huge fan of the way they feel, and North Carolina gets really hot. But after riding around all winter wearing these gloves, maybe I'll change my mind and I will wear them nonstop. But gloves will protect your hand. Now, the ones that I'm wearing, these are Deadbeat Customs. I haven't found these specific type on their website because I wanted to buy another pair just in case something happens to these. Then obviously you have jackets, you have pants. And so I definitely recommend wearing safety equipment. Don't use me as a shining example because I don't wear pants, I don't wear a jacket. Kind of contradicting a little bit about what I said with the helmet thing. But for me, the helmet being like a zero tolerance policy deal, the jacket and the pants, not so much. Don't take it from me on not wearing the gear. Definitely look into the gear. It all gets tied into the cost of owning a bike. Something else to consider when buying a bike is the size of said bike. Are you brand new to riding? You want to do it and you're excited about the idea, but you're not that experienced, you've never really ridden before. It scares you a little bit. That's fine, there's nothing wrong with that. Don't go buy a 135-inch monster of a motor, hop on that thing and think you're going to be fine. Maybe look into buying something smaller like a Sportster. They have iron 883s, they have 1200s, all different types of motorcycles with smaller engines. They can still get you from A to B, still have a good time on it, but it's a good bike to hop up on and learn and not be overly terrified about what you have underneath you. And the cool thing about those smaller engines is they do come at a more affordable price point. When buying a motorcycle, something else that you may need to consider is where do you live? And I ask that not because I want to peek through your windows, but how are you going to store your bike? I'm fortunate in that I have a shop and I live out in the country, and so I have ample storage for my bikes. If you live in an apartment that offers some type of garage storage, that's something you might want to consider. And if you do go and do that, that adds into, once again, the final cost of your bike. When I first got out of the Marine Corps, my wife and I moved into an apartment, and I had a couple of outdoor toys that I needed to store, and I didn't want to leave them outside in the parking lot. And so for $25 extra a month, I rented one of their storage units. I highly recommend finding some type of scenario where you can store your bike in a secured place. The last thing you want to do is spend the money, get excited for yourself, learn how to ride the bike, get attached to it. It's your first motorcycle, it becomes sentimental to you, and then one day you grab your keys and your helmet and you walk outside and that bike is gone, and you find out these things are so easily stolen. I understand not everyone has the luxury of having a garage or some place to store their vehicles, but I could not imagine waking up one day and finding my bike gone. Just something that I think about. Secure your stuff before someone else secures it against you. Something else to mention is whatever bike you're looking at, see if you can test ride it. A dealership should most likely let you test ride anything that you are looking at. But if you're buying privately, make sure you can test ride the bike. If they say no, they don't want you test riding it, no matter how much you want that bike, to me that would give me some cause for concern. Now obviously if you didn't show up with the money, don't expect to be able to test ride it. Show up with the cash. That way the seller can hold on to that cash and then take that thing for a spin around the block. Maybe give them your ID or something like that along with the money. But if I was selling a bike and somebody wanted to test ride it, first I would expect that they would want to test ride it. That's not unfair to ask. But I'm going to want to be holding the cash in hand as well as like the ID or something to make sure they don't go taking off. Now when negotiating, I will give you this a little bit, and this is something that was taught by a good friend of mine. If you're looking to buy privately, have your offer in mind, and then when you go look at the bike, bring the asking amount with you, put your offer in one pocket, and then put the difference in another pocket. Because if you throw your offer out there and they accept it, they don't negotiate you back, they just accept it, it would be pretty shitty to pull out a wad of cash, count through a couple of $100, pocket those bills, and then give that person the cash. It's just, to me, it's kind of unprofessional and unbecoming of your character. So split the ask up, put the difference in another pocket, start your negotiating from there. Look into safety courses. Even if you've ridden a whole bunch and you think you're a pro, go take a safety course. You can look into the Motorcycle Safety Foundation course. I think like certain Harley dealerships as well as some community colleges. Now, full disclaimer, I've yet to take that course. It was my plan last year. Then I wound up having to cancel my seat in one of the classes just because my schedule didn't line up. But my plan is still to go and take one of those courses. You're never too good at anything to not go and take a course to better yourself at something. And if you think you are too good, I've mentioned it before in other videos, I'm a firearms and a jiu-jitsu instructor. And the type of student students that come to my courses thinking that they're not going to learn anything in my courses, those people obviously wind up being the most difficult to coach. And on top of that, they have some of the worst habits built up because they were self-teachers. They were never properly taught by someone else or didn't have third-party eyes looking on how they did things. And their egos made them think they were that guy. And then specifically range speaking, myself and the other instructors get out there and just absolutely whoop the crap out of these guys. And they find out they in fact were not that guy.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy.
So no one's too good to go take a course from a professional or for someone who gets paid to teach whatever skills you're looking to enrich. So look into taking a course. But again, courses cost money. The last big point that I want to make when considering buying a motorcycle is setting a standard for yourself. So especially if it's your first bike, have go and no-go criteria for yourself, because eventually you're going to start to ride with friends, as you should. Part of the enjoyment of riding motorcycles is riding with friends. But when you do that, you're opening yourself up to a lot of variables. And what I mean is, some of those people are going to have different priorities in life than you. They'll all have different skill levels than you, whether better or worse. They will have different bikes than you, and they will have different ideas of what is good, safe riding and dangerous riding. And so only ride within your capabilities. There are certain things like going back to shooting and jiu-jitsu. There are good times to go out there and push yourself, try and get better at things. If you're on a safe range with instructors and no one's shooting back at you, that's the time to try and push yourself beyond your capabilities to then create new standards for yourself. Same thing with jiu-jitsu. I don't go and roll with people that I'm better than over and over. I go roll with guys that kick my butt relentlessly because they're eventually going to make me better, but it's done in laboratory conditions where I know I'm not going to get injured. The same thing goes for riding a bike. The time to push your skills is either on a closed course, in a parking lot, or at a class in laboratory conditions. The last thing you want to do is go on a run with some friends, you get on the highway, and a couple of them start riding like absolute madmen up and down the road, and it looks fun, but then you find out in the middle of it that it's way beyond your skill set. And you don't want to have to think about those things for the first time when you get thrown in those scenarios. So tell yourself ahead of time, like, hey, say for example, I'm not going to get on the interstate until I feel a certain level of comfort on the bike riding around town, or I'm not going to travel at this speed until I feel a certain level of comfort. But have that level of respect for you and for your loved ones to set boundaries for yourself and then ride within those boundaries. Even as adults, it's easy to succumb to peer pressure if you don't have those standards for yourself. So set the standards and then live by them. I'm here to tell you, no one's going to be impressed with how fast you ride. Going off track a little bit here, some of you guys had mentioned BattleBot Moto stickers in some comments. I haven't gone ahead with making any stickers and stuff like that yet. I did just get a YouTube handle sticker to put on the side of my helmet, and I mentioned something about, waving to me and subscribing if you guys catch me on the road. And then one of you said you've actually seen me on the road before, which I thought was absolutely awesome. So A, if you do see me on the road, or you recognize me by obviously a leg, or if you catch the sticker on the helmet, definitely say hey. But if you're interested in getting like BattleBot Moto stickers, like the logo and stuff like that, let me know in the comments, and then if I can get enough interest, I'll go ahead and purchase them. I know guys like, I think Mike Schaefer, I might be saying that name wrong, you mentioned in an early video about stickers, which I think is so wild that somebody would want a sticker from the channel, especially as I'm so new to all this kind of stuff. Again, if you guys want stickers and there's enough interest, I'll go ahead and get some designs, and then because I am so humbled by the support, when they get them made, I'll give an announcement, and then anyone who wants one, I'll just send it to you free of charge. As long as you guys like post a picture, tag my Instagram handle on it, that way I can like repost it and share it and stuff. We'll start a little BattleBot Moto community movement, stickers everywhere. So yeah, if you're interested in a sticker, just drop it in the comments that you are, and then I don't know how many seems right before I get the stickers made. I guess we'll just have to see. But I'm going to enjoy the rest of this ride for myself. So appreciate you guys tuning in as always. If you have any other advice or tips for someone looking to buy a motorcycle, drop that good knowledge in the comments. If there's something I missed or if there's something that you disagree with, drop it in the comments below. So as always guys, give this video a thumbs up, and if you haven't done so already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And if you know someone who's looking to buy a motorcycle, share the video with them. Give them some extra things to think about. As always, be safe out there guys. Until next time, peace.